Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Hunter College 2021-2022 FAFSA filing session virtually. Thank you all for attending today, and we're going to begin right now. Everyone, please make sure you are signed on to studentaid.gov and everyone has an FSA ID already, and please sign into the FAFSA page. Next slide. Have everyone, if you created a FSA ID, please sign in with your FSA ID to prepare to start the application. Next slide. If you are signed in, this is the page that you should be on. Everyone should be on the page that's studentaid.gov. No other page. This is the free one. Must be studentaid.gov. Thank you. Next slide. For many of you, this may not be your first application. You may be a returning student. So on your login page, you are logging in as I am the student if you are the student that is logging in. Next slide. If you're a returning student, on this page, most of your information may have already been inputted in that. Now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, John Palin, and he's going to take us further into the application.
Right, and we hope that you're all following along and completing this as we go. If most of the information should be pre-populated, but if we are going too fast, please let us know in the chat and we will slow down so that everyone can follow along. The slide that we're on right now should have your first name, last name, social security number, and date of birth. Again, it should be pre-populated, but this is an opportunity for you to double check to make sure that your information is accurate, especially the numbers in your social security number and date of birth. So please double check that, and then we can move to the next slide. This is the warning that you must accept. It is just acknowledging that you are on a U.S. federal government website and that you are going to be putting in very important information, and that you just acknowledge and accept the terms and conditions. So please accept, and we can move to the next slide. This is where we will get started with this year's information. Please make sure that you click the button on the left that says Start 21-22 FAFSA. Next slide, please. On this slide, you're going to create a save key. It's a 4-digit key that will allow you to stop and save your work and then come back and pick up where you left off. This key and your application will be available for 45 days from when you start it. If you need to, log out, log back in, you have 45 days to complete the application. So this save key is something that you should write down and remember and be able to use when needed. Next page. Again, this is your student information. Hopefully everybody sees the green pop up there, or the green highlight there that says your application was successfully saved. You'll see your social security number again, first name, last name, and your date of birth. Please just confirm that all of that information is accurate. Next slide. On this page, you will confirm your email address and your phone number. Many of you might have completed this FAFSA form last year with a high school email address. If that's no longer valid, please make sure you update it to your current email address so that you can receive the appropriate correspondence. On this page, you are going to confirm your address, number and street, city that you live in, state, and zip code. Next slide, please. Following up on your address information, this slide asks you to confirm that you are a U.S. citizen and that you have lived at your residence for the last 5 years. Please check the box appropriately and go to the next slide. Again, same question. Please confirm that you've lived in your current state for the last 5 years, and that you are a U.S. citizen. Next slide. Thank you. This is where they're going to find out what level and what year you are in your college career. So the first question says, what will your high school completion status be when you begin the 2021 school year? You'll have high school diploma in there because most of you are doing this. It's not the first time. The next two questions are going to ask you about your current college status. So if this is your first bachelor's degree, you can find that in the drop-down menu. If it's not your first bachelor's degree, that will be a selection in there as well. And then the second question is, what college grade level will you be in the 2021-22 year? And the drop downs will give you the option of never attended college, first year, second year, third year, and so on. So please select appropriately. And then the last portion is whether or not you are interested in being considered for work study. So you can select yes, no, or don't know. And then we can go to the next slide. Additional information about yourself, please select male or female. And then most male students will have to continue to click the buttons below about being registered with the Selective Service System. If you are not currently registered and you would like to register, you can click the second button there that says yes, and the Selective Service System will use all of your FAFSA information to register you. Next slide, please. On this slide, you are going to input your driver's license number and state. Please take a minute if it's pre-populated and confirm that the numbers are accurate. Hopefully everyone has their driver's license with them and can double check the information. Next slide, please. This is where we start to get into some information about your family and parents. First question, are you a foster youth or were you at any time in a foster care system? Please answer the question yes or no. And then you will also see drop-down menus to select the highest school completed by parent 1 and then highest school completed by parent 2. Again, please select from the drop-down menu, make sure it's accurate, and then we can go to the next slide. This is where your high school information, they're going to ask for your high school information. Again, it should be pre-populated, but if not, please use the search feature that they have where you can enter the name of your high school, what city it was located in, and the state of your high school, and click the blue search button, and the results will populate on the next page. Hopefully, based on your search, your high school will come up. And you can select if there's more than one that are in the same city or the same area with a similar name, please make sure that you select the right high school. Click the button and then hit next to go to the next slide. On this slide, this is where you're going to enter Hunter College's information. Again, most of you should have done this. You know, you're doing this for Hunter to be sent to Hunter and not multiple schools. So you can put Hunter College in there, and then you can also put the school code in. It has a question where you can search for the code, but you can say you know it because the code is for Hunter College 002689. If you were to click yes to that button, you can enter the code. Otherwise, you put state, New York, city, New York, and school name Hunter College, click search, and the results will populate on the next page. This is where Hunter will come up. Please confirm that the school code is 002689. Check the box and we will go to the next page. And this, again, this is where it'll make sure that your information is sent to Hunter College. On this slide, you are going to use the drop down to select your housing plans while you are attending Hunter in the 2021-22 year. You'll have options on campus, in a dorm, at home. Just select the appropriate answer from the drop down menu. Next slide, please. It's going to ask for your marital status as of today. Again, a drop-down menu, please check or select the answer that best represents your marital status as of today. Next slide, please. This page will requires you to put some information about whether or not you have any dependents from July 1, 21 through June 30th, 2022. It says, do you now have or will you have children who will receive more than half of their support from you? Select yes or no. And then do you have any dependents who live with you and will receive more than half of their support from you now through June 30th, 2022? Again, please select the appropriate yes or no answers, and we can go to the next slide. Some follow-up questions. To provide information about your parents on your FAFSA, please check all of the boxes that apply or none of the above. The first box says, are you currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces for purposes of other than training? Second box, are you a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces? Third one, at any time since you turned 13, were both of your parents deceased? Were you in foster care, or were you a dependent or ward of the court? Fourth one, as determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? And then the last question there is, does someone other than your parent or step parent have legal guardianship of you as determined by a court in the state of your legal residence? If any of those boxes apply to you, please select it. If none of them do, you can select the last checkbox, which is none of the above. Next slide, please. This is for your household size. So you would put 1 in the top box there to represent yourself, and then you can answer the questions below based on your marital status, if there's anyone else in your household, or number of family members in college, which is the bottom box there. How many people in your household will be in college in 21-22? Next slide, please. Question here, on or after July 1, 2020, will you be homeless or will you be self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? And you can select yes or no. Next slide, please. If you are a dependent student, this next section will ask you questions about your parents. Hopefully you have your parents' information readily available that you can either input it or double check that the information is accurate. If you are able to and will provide information about your parents as a dependent student, you can click the button that says, I will provide information about my parents. Once you click that button, you can hit next and move on to the next slide. If you are an independent student, this means you're not required to answer the questions about your parents. So you would select the no button and move on to the next slide. So the first question about your parents is, as of today, what is their marital status? There's a drop-down menu. It pre-populates there at the beginning, married or remarried. And then if they are currently married, it will ask what date they were married. So you would put the date that they were married in the second box there and then move to the next slide. This is where you will enter information for your first parent. Again, hopefully it's pre-populated or you have it readily available. The first one asks for your parent's social security number, parent's last name, parent's first initial, parent one's date of birth, parent's email address, and then they will ask you to reconfirm the email address that you entered. Next slide, please. This second page, you will enter the information for your other parent. Same thing, social security number, last name, first initial, and date of birth. Again, please double check that the information is accurate, specifically the social security numbers. Hopefully it's pre-populated, but please confirm that it's accurate. Next slide, please. Similar to the question that you were asked before about your parents' residence, have your parents lived in, and then whatever state you entered for the last 5 years, you can answer the question yes or no, and then move to the next slide. This page asks about your household size. Based on the information that you entered, it will populate the number for your parents and for yourself. It will also ask you questions about other members of your household and number of people in the household that are currently in college. So you would answer those questions based on your current family situation. Next slide, please. And this is where I will turn it back over to Tanisha. She will go over the parent financials and moving forward with the application.
Thank you, John. So for right now, this is where we go into the parent tax filing status. I am going to pace myself a little slower because everyone right now should have their parent or their own 2019 tax information in front of them. If you have your tax information in front of you, some of you can even link straight to the IRS to pull the information in. So this first page, note that this is the first slide where you can link. So you would click link to IRS. Next slide. When you link to the IRS page, you could put or right here, this is where you're gonna let us know if you already completed your taxes. Is it an IRS 1040, 1048, or 1040 easy? That will be in the drop down. And this will also be your filing status. For dependent students, this will be your filing status. For your parents, if you did not file taxes. For independent students, this will be the filing status for yourself. Here you also click link to the IRS. Next slide. If your parent is eligible for the IRS data retrieval tool, here it will take you directly to the IRS page. Next slide. On this page is a pop-up window that displays the applicant chose to do the IRS data retrieval from the previous page. You will click OK. Next. So this is just a government website disclaimer, just letting you know that you're leaving the FAFSA site to go into the government IRS site. Next slide. Okay, so we're gonna take our time here. Please make sure in this section you have the name. If you're dependent, this is your parent first and last name, parent social, parent date of birth, parent filing status, address. When you look at the address, please make sure that the address is exactly how it is on the 1040s or the 1040A. If it's in all caps, please put the address in all caps. If it's lowercase, put it lowercase. If it has an apartment and it says APT apartment, make sure you put APT. In order for the data retrieval tool to be completed, it must be exactly how you see it on the top of your 1040 tax returns. Thank you. Next slide. This is a continuing of the same page. Please make sure your zip code and your state is directly how you see it on the tax returns. If all of your information is correct, please click submit. Next slide. For those who the data retrieval tool was able to take successfully, here you would see the information here. You will click the box on the transfer my tax information to my FAFSA. You will click that box and click transfer now. If you do not want to transfer your information, you will click the box saying do not transfer your information. If you choose not to transfer your information, in the next couple of slides, for those who choose not to do the IRS data retrieval tool or could not have done it, we will go through the steps of entering the information manually. Next slide. If you were able to do the IRS data retrieval tool, here you will see what was your adjusted gross income, and it'll say transferred from the IRS. If this is for the students who did the data retrieval tool and you were able to do it. Next slide. Now the next page is asking for your wages earned. The wages earned, if you were able to do the data retrieval tool, it transferred automatically from the IRS. But there's a next question. Did you file a Schedule K1? So with the taxes in front of you, you should be able to see maybe like up into the second or the third page, there's a form, a 1065 form for 2019. If you see that, then you will click yes. If you do not have that, then you will click no. Next page. So this page, if you were able to do the data retrieval tool, your income taxes paid for 2019 has transferred over. Next slide. Okay, so this is for the students who were unable to do the IRS data retrieval tool. So you will please have your taxes in front of you. And the question is asking, what was your parents' adjusted gross income, the AGI? This amount is found on the IRS form 1040 line 8B. I'm going to get everyone a chance to look at it. The amount that you see on the 1040 line 8B, please enter that amount here. Next slide. So here is the parents' earnings from work. If you have two parents in the household, this is parent one and parent two. So you will go to the 1040 line on the schedule one. So you will go 1040 line one on your tax return, plus schedule one line 3 plus 6. That will give you the amounts that's earned in it. If you don't have nothing in lines 3 and 6, that's okay. But we do need the wages that is on the 1040 form in section line 1. And you're going to look for both parents. For some, it may be calculated all together, so you may need to look in the back of your taxes for the wages, the W-2 wages. And it will give you this, if you have a W-2 in front of you, it give you the separation of the wages for both parent 1 and 2. Next. Okay, so now we're going to enter the amount of income tax for 2019. This is the total amount of IRS form 1040 line 14 minus schedule 2 line 2. So that is how you will calculate and see how much income tax was paid for 2019 from your parent income. Next slide. So here we have the parent simplified path determination. So here you indicated that your parents filed IRS 1040. Did your parents file a Schedule 1? If no, your parents did not file a Schedule 1 and only filed a Schedule 1 to report unemployment compensation, an IRA deduction, student's loan deduction, then you will click yes. As of today, is either of your parents a dislocated worker? So when they're asking is a dislocated worker, so say for right now, due to COVID-19, they were dislocated and have nowhere to work right now, then you will put yes if that is the case. If that is not the case, you will put no. If you don't know, please put you do not know. Now moving on, in 2019 and 2020, did your parents receive any government benefits such as Medicaid, Social Security income, SNAP benefits, free school lunch for the family, temporary assistance for needy families, that's food stamps as well, and cash assistance, and any supplementary nutrition program for women. If not, put none of the above. I'll give you a chance to look over those questions and check which box is for you. Next slide. This is some additional questions for both the parent and the student. If you're independent, these questions are for you. If you're dependent, these questions is for your parents. Did your parents are in the military and receive any combat pay? If not, it's zero. Did you receive any scholarships or grant include AmeriCorps? You will put the amount there. If not, it's zero. On the taxes, there's an educational credits received, students may receive, or the parents receive on the taxes. You will go to IRS Form 1040, Schedule 3, Line 3. If there is something in your IRS form, Schedule 3, Line 3, you will enter that amount there for educational credits. And the next question goes to untaxed portion of IRA distributions or pensions from the IRS form. That is line 1040, line 4A plus 4C minus 4B plus 4B minus 4D. Exclude rollovers. If negative, enter the zero. So I'm going to give you a chance to look that over to see if your parents have any IRA portion or pensions on their taxes. The next question is similar to that, is IRA deductions and payments from self-employment. It's on the IRS form 1040, Schedule 1. It's the total of lines 15 plus 19. Please take your time to double check those lines to see if you have that. And our next question is the tax exempt interest income from IRS. So you're going to look on your form 1040, line 2A. If there is an amount in line 2A, that's your tax exempt interest income. On your parents, or if you're the student and independent, it's on your box. Please look 1040, line 2A. Enter the amount there. Next slide. The following questions are both for parent information for dependent students as well as for independent students that as well. So here, did your parents have any of the following items in 2019? Did you, if you're an independent student, or your parent, if you're a dependent student, pay child support? Do not include foster care or adoption payments. Do they pay or received, if they received any child support? If your parent is receiving child support and you know how much it is, you may know the monthly amount. Remember, that's times 12. So that's the amount that you would need to put in that box. The next question is the parent receiving any housing allowance for maybe like military housing, or if they receiving anything from, say, if they're a minister and they receive cash from that, from clergy. So the next line is payments from tax deferred pension. If any of you have your parents' W-2s attached to your 1040 form, if not, you may need to go back and put that in if you don't have it in front of you. You're going to check line box 12A through 12D. If you see a numbered code from the codes from codes D, E, F, G, or H, and S, you can add those together. That is the tax deferred pension line that you need to put that amount there. Do not include amounts reported in code DD. So you will add together if you have anything from boxes 12A through 12D, codes D, E, F, or G. Our next section is, do your parents or yourself receive any veterans non-education benefits such as disability, death, pension, or dependency, or any dependency compensation? Any VA educational work study allowances if you're a veteran? So the next one is asking, other untaxed income not reported, such as workers' comp or disability benefits. If you receive that, this is the box. If you know if your parents is receiving any workman's comp or disability benefits and you know how much it is, this is the area to where you will put that number in the box. Next slide. Continuing on with parent asset information. And if you're an independent student, this is your asset information. So for dependent students, you have the option of skipping this question if you wish not to enter parent access information if you do not know about any of their assets that they receive. If you chose not to skip, the question asks, as of today, what is your parents' total current balance of cash, savings, or checking account? In your parents' bank account, if you know the amount of how much they have in cash on hand, savings account, or checking account, this is where you will enter the information. If you're an independent student, you will enter how much you have in your checking account or your savings account here in this section. The next question is asking, as of today, what is the net worth of your parents' investments, including real estate? Not the home that you are currently residing in, but if your parents own a home and they're renting it out and they're not living in that home, or if they're living in that home and they rent out a portion of that home, here is what we want to know. What is the worth of the home? What is the market value of that home? The next question is asking about business. As of today, what is the net worth of your parents' current businesses or investment farms? Do not include family farm or family benefits with 100 or fewer full-time or full-time equivalent employees. So if your parents have a big business that have more than 100 employees and they own it, we need to know what's the value of that investment. What is that business worth as of today if it was sold? Next slide. So here we are at the end. Everyone should be at the end of your application. So this is just letting you know what you filled out. And it says, I, the student, agree to the terms that outline above. So you will click the agree button. They're just letting you know that everything that you put in, the information is put in correctly. There is no false information in there. So you can either agree or disagree. After you agree, click next. Next slide. For students, this is where you sign in. So if you already signed in with your FSA ID, you will click that box and that will be your electronic signature. Next slide. So we'll see that the student signed in And the next is where the parents are needed. So you provide your parent signature. So that means it's not the same FSA ID as yours. It is your parents' FSA ID. In this case, if you're unable to sign and unable to create a FSA ID, there is an option for a printed form, signature form. You can print it out, have your parents sign it, and mail it to the address that is located on the form. Next slide. Once that is done, it will let you know it was signed as parent. If there's parent one and parent two, you can use either one, parent one or parent two, to sign the signature page for dependent students. Next slide. This is the confirmation that it was signed electronically. You should see that here. Once you see that it's signed electronically, you can now submit your FAFSA. Everyone can please make sure that it's signed and submit your FAFSA. Next slide. Now you will receive all the information that you put in. Please take the time to review this section. Make sure all information is correct. And this will be the copy of your student aid report. So this is something that you can see everything that you inputted. If you notice that something is incorrect, you can go back, not in the same day, in about 24 hours, you can go back and make the corrections to your FAFSA. Next slide. This is just a continuing information of all the information that you put in. Next slide. Again, this is sign and submit. We've already signed and submitted all the way to the end. This is your student aid report. So for those who has to print it out and send it back, then this is where you would sign it. Next. And then you should be seeing this. Congratulations, you have completed your FAFSA. At this time, if anyone have any questions, please feel free to write your questions in our Q&A box. We will be more than happy to assist you. Nigel, could you answer one question for me?
Sure.
Okay, so there's a question for combat pay or special combat pay. Where will we find that one on the 1040? Is it on the 1040 or the W-2?
Give me 1 second. I'll give you the answer.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. How do I transfer my FAFSA into TAP? I wasn't sure how to do it last time because I didn't see the transfer box pop up. So currently, if you see the transfer box pop up, you just click the box and it'll take you directly into the TAP application. It will send your information directly over to it. If not, you will have to sign on to the TAP website which is HES, which is H is in Harry, E is in Ebony, S is in Sam, C is in cat, .ny.gov to complete your TAP application. If you're unable to do that, you can email us at finaid
Before-
hunter.cuny.edu and I'll be happy to assist you.
Hi, Tanisha. The combat pay is listed on the W-2 form, box 12, and it should have a code of Q.
Box 12,
It should
code.
have a Q code next to the amount.
Okay, thank you. So for the combat pay question, you're gonna look on your parents' W-2 form. It's box 12, code Q. Thank you, Nigel.
You're welcome.
Another question the student wants to know, if you're filing independent, does it hurt your EFC score not answering questions about your parent?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's actually a good question, and we appreciate the question. What I would say is that it varies based on the income earnings. Sometimes it actually is more beneficial for the student to be dependent because of the fact that the student's income is in conjunction with the parent's income, as well as all of the other household members in the household and in college can kind of help the student. So as opposed to in some cases when you try to make yourself independent, and it's only your income, and in some cases only you're listed in the household, it can sometimes not work in your favor. So if you are a dependent student, it's always encouraged to answer all the questions and provide the parental income information as needed.
Thank you, Nigel. Okay, I have a, wait, let's see, one more question. Okay, so it says, I noticed that the college I transferred from is still receiving my financial aid and Hunter is receiving only a portion. How can I fix the problem?
So I'm confused. Just to be clear, is the question that the student filed the FAFSA? And so every school that's listed on the FAFSA will receive the information as long, obviously they'll receive the information in some way, shape, or form. There are cases in which both schools will get the FAFSA, depending on if you've listed the 6 or 10, depending on which year we're talking about. So both schools should get the FAFSA. The caveat here is the institution that is your home school or your attending school, the primary school should be the institution that pays towards your educational expenses, depending on your eligibility.
Thank you, Nigel.
So if you've attended a school in the fall and a separate school in the spring, one school in the fall will pay for your, well, not won't pay, but depending on your eligibility, with that school will be the opted school that will pay towards your education based on your eligibility. The other school will be the one that pays in the spring. Now, if you're attending schools in the same term, only one school can pay at a time.
Okay, thank you. So this concludes our FAFSA filing session for today. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email us at finaid@hunter.cuny.edu.
Very quickly, I think there's one more question.
Okay, I see one more, okay.
The student is asking, I didn't get the FAFSA last year. I wasn't able to take a certain number of classes the fall semester. I just took 3 classes for the fall. Can I still apply? Yes, you should definitely still apply for the FAFSA. If you have not done the 2020-2021 FAFSA, please do so as soon as possible, as it is based on this current academic year.
Thank you, Nigel. Any more questions? Okay. So that seems to conclude us. Okay.
And one last thing I wanted to mention, we will be having a separate presentation listed on our website, potentially by the end of the week or early next week. If you are unable to complete the FAFSA, you can definitely log on to the hunter.cuny.edu website and go to the financial aid page via One Stop, and you should be able to see the presentation there, and you can definitely walk through the FAFSA as well.
Thank you all for attending. And again, like Nigel stated, there will be a presentation on our website so where you can be able to follow to walk you through the process. You also can email us at finaid@hunter.cuny.edu for assistance. Thank you all. Brian, is it just us?
No, we still have 6 attendees in the room.
Okay.
Tanisha, would you like me to remove the students?
Yes, please. Bernice, don't sign off. Okay. Hi, John. Hi, Bernice. Bernice, just I need a little feedback from you. How did we do? Bernice? John, what you think? I think we Brian, what you think?
I thought it was good. I
Okay.
didn't think it was too fast. At some points, I felt like it was fast, but
Yeah,
not.
but Nigel told us to slow down and I see
And once you did, you slowed down. It was good.
I tried to go slow.
you were doing good. But you know what? We're gonna use that other presentation. It's so detailed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to you, Brian, and he talks through the whole thing. He doesn't even need us.
Yeah.
He talks through the whole thing. So I'll send you that and we'll see if we can use that. But it's like on a YouTube though. It was a YouTube video that they did from the state. We can use that, Brian.
I'm not sure, but I can find out.
I'm going to email you the link.
CC Jonathan Mena on that as well,
Okay.
because he will be the one that would ask that.
Okay, no problem. So I'm going to send you that email later. And thank you so much. Thanks, John.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank
have a
you.
great day, guys.
All right.